I'm Colin Singer, immigration lawyer and managing partner of Immigration.ca. Canada Immigration News Articles, June 2014. New Citizenship Act will create two classes of Canadians. The federal government argues that its proposed new Citizenship Act will protect the value of citizenship. One concern is that it may instead lead to making Canadian citizenship harder to get and easier to lose. In a bid to introduce stricter residency requirements, the government is increasing the required period of permanent residency to 4 years from 3. While this may not initially seem like a major change, it may lead to additional processing delays. The following scenario is very likely to happen in the future. A foreign student completes a master's degree in 3 years. The student wishes to stay in Canada and is a highly skilled immigrant, high in demand in Canada, but is not eligible to apply for permanent residence yet. The individual must first find and sustain suitable employment for a year. Having done so, the student applies for permanent resident status, which takes another year to process. The student has now been in Canada for 5 years, but none of it counts toward the 4-year permanent residency requirements. Under the old rules, the student would have received partial credit for years lived in Canada as a temporary resident. Unfortunately, under the new rules, this no longer applies. The student is now a permanent resident just at the starting line of the 4-year period and must spend in Canada the 4 years to apply for citizenship. The student's employer requests the student to work in one of its overseas offices. Unfortunately, under the new rules, any time spent outside of Canada will further delay the eligibility for citizenship and could even jeopardize the permanent resident status. The student likely will refuse the advancement of career opportunity. 4 years later, the student has fulfilled all the permanent residence requirements and applies for citizenship. However, existing delays due to staff shortages will cause a delay of up to 2 years before the application is actually processed. The student has now been in Canada for 11 years, 6 of them as a permanent resident. It is only after the 11-year period that the student can be described as Canadian. Research indicates that the sooner individuals can obtain citizenship, the sooner and more fully they intend to invest themselves in Canadian society. Along with making citizenship harder to obtain, Bill C-24 will make it easier to lose. The Act grants the Federal Minister of Immigration authority to revoke the citizenship of those found guilty of major crimes, including terrorism. The problematic question this raises is whether the revocation of citizenship is the right tool for preventing terrorism or punishing criminals. Adding citizenship revocation as an extra prospective punishment for dual citizens is the same as creating a second class of citizenship. Canadian citizenship is a solution, not a problem. Canada has traditionally had exceptionally high naturalization rates. Nearly 9 in 10 immigrants have become Canadian citizens. This pattern has been praised as a strength and a pillar of the Canadian immigration program, a sign that immigrants are invested in Canada and Canada is invested in the successful integration of its immigrants. When immigrants become citizens, they can vote. They can stand for office and win. For example, in 2011, 44 members of parliament were born outside the country. To turn citizenship from a tool of integration into a reward for good behavior, or to be revoked at the discretion of one minister on grounds of bad behavior and without due process, is to undermine the meaning and the value of citizenship for all Canadians. In 2011, a study that investigated Canadians' attitudes about citizenship found that citizenship is seen as a very important step toward full integration into the Canadian economy and society. Canada does not reserve special rights for people who were born on its soil or who hold only Canadian citizenship. Every Canadian is equal. Source: The Globe and Mail.